My guest this month needs no particular introduction. He's a Filipino and also a countryman of mine. Welcome to EU Talk, Erwan Heussaf. Our way of engaging with young personalities in the Philippines, from the art, from culture, from food as well. It's a great pleasure to meet you finally in person. Of course, we know, all of us, we know a little bit about it, but how would you describe your childhood?
To many surprise, I feel more Filipino than French. I mean, I'm half-half, but born and raised in the Philippines. So I was here until I was 17. And then, after when I was 17, moved to Paris, where I studied for 4 years and worked a little bit all around the world and eventually found my way back here.
So you spent 4 years in France?
I spent 4 years in France. I don't like vacations or time off. So instead of taking vacations in between school, I would go out and work. So I worked in Shanghai for about 6 months. I worked in Vietnam, in Hanoi for 6 months. Then I worked also a summer in Paris for 6 months in a hotel there. And then eventually I went to Bangkok, where I worked there for 4 months. And then after that, with a French company called Sodexo. And then after that, they sent me to Yuzhno-Sakhalin, far eastern Russia. Yeah, everyone makes that face. So north of North Korea, north of Japan even, and I was there for 2 years.
How would you describe what you do now? What's your job?
So I focus on production, film production, and so we set up a company called The Fat Kid Inside, which is a production company that has its own publishing and media company, which is called Feature. Nothing to do with what I studied, nothing to do with what my experiences were, but I've always been someone that kind of rolled with the times and then bundled up all this experience and then tried to direct it where I saw kind of like industries going. And I realized that all companies were shifting their media budgets to digital. So I had that experience bundled up and I said, okay, I might as well set up a company that helps consult for these companies. So today, if anyone asks me what exactly do, I run a media company.
I'm sure this is a question you had many times, but could you explain the name of your company?
So I used to be big. So I was, at one point I went to a doctor and he said I was scientifically obese. So they called it obesity level 1. And this was when I was 20. I mean, just like anyone in college, drinking a lot of alcohol in France. Limited budget, so deciding, should I drink beer tonight or should I eat food? And the answer was always drink beer. And so it was a really unhealthy lifestyle. So I got really, really big. And this is when there were a lot of books out there, Atkins, South Beach diet, all promoting kind of like high protein diets.
Right.
And so instead of following one, what I did is I read kind of like the top 10 books at that time and then just kind of summarized it and said, why don't I try all of these things at once? And I did it. And so I went from, I was 115 kilograms. And I went down to about 80 kilograms in a course of 6 months, which was a lot of weight.
You stayed there.
And then I stayed at 80 and then I dropped down even further later. And I realized it wasn't hard to lose weight, like technically.
Discipline.
It's very hard mentally.
Right.
And so that's why I started a blog called The Fat Kid Inside. So a lot of people found it funny at first, the name.
It's a super good title.
It's a good title, but it also just showcased kind of like that insecurity you carry as someone who used to be big. You're always scared that you're gonna get big again. And that's why I called it The Fat Kid Inside. And if you look at, I think some of the posts are still archived. If you look at all the original posts, it was all about kind of like helping people in their own journey and kind of helping them kind of like lose weight or lose fat to a point where they're mentally, more happy. Yeah.
Is it still part of your activity? Because is it something you still do, or you advertise, or you showcase as a person?
Well, business-wise, it was very limiting.
Right.
Because at first all my recipes were healthy, and then I'm like, oh,
okay.
Now what do I do? And I like eating and cooking unhealthy things too, right? So eventually that evolved in terms of our approach. But me personally, yes, it's still very much part of my life. I still work out every day.
Of course, it's not necessary to say that your wife is Australian.
Correct.
Everyone knows who
Yes.
your wife is. So you also built a multinational, multicultural couple and family, right?
Yeah, correct, yeah.
So your daughter is maybe 1/4 French,
Correct.
2/4 Filipino.
Yes. She has a full half.
Full half Filipino and Australian, correct?
Yes, yeah. So I mean, we met when I was going back and forth from Russia. And yeah, so now we have a very multicultural household. My Tagalog is shabby at best, simply because when we were young, we were never taught it. So we're making sure to kind of fix.
But your wife is quite good.
She's good, but she didn't grow up speaking Tagalog.
Right.
So she started working when she was 12, which is
Right.
insane. When she was working at 12, she had a very accented Tagalog. And then eventually she learned because of the job, and now she's very good.
You speak French to your daughter?
I speak French to my daughter, and then Anne speaks to her in English and in Tagalog.
Right. One of the motives behind this series of EU Talk is to show the talent in the Philippines and to show that you can make it in the Philippines, right? And of course, I interview all kinds of background, and yours is particular as anyone else I have interviewed. What is, I would say, the secret? It seems to me, maybe I'm wrong, and maybe this is something you said already somewhere, that you turn your hobbies into your work life. Is that a good definition?
Exactly that. I mean, I'm a person that really likes to go deep into my hobbies. So when I do something, I want to try to be the best I can be in that domain. Like when I got into triathlon, I did that for 6 years and really got into it and committed to it, and that's just how my mind works.
Food in any ways, in terms of communication, in communicating about food, or conveying some life lessons, maybe. And I suppose my question is more: where do you see yourself going in the next few years? If that's not too indiscreet to ask.
I mean, I think about it every day. But so initially, everything I did on social media, in terms of publishing, which means the videos I was putting out, was all under my name. It was all under Erwan Heussaf. But my objective was never to be a celebrity. I wanted to build a platform. And so I knew in 2021, to be taken seriously as a platform, I'd have to take my name completely out of it. And so that's why I switched everything to feature media. And for the longest time, if you watch any of our content, it was always educational. It was always trying to showcase something. It was never about me and my experience. It was always about how to travel a certain location, or about certain dishes that I think were culturally important. Everyone talks about the Philippines like, oh, it's the next big thing. And so I always say I'm obsessed with figuring out how do you go from the next big thing to just a big thing.
You put the spotlight on something that was already there.
Yeah.
And that was just waiting to.
Exactly. GI is so important when it comes to agriculture.
Absolutely.
And in the Philippines, we don't have that.
I have two advocacies, inverted commas. One is to showcase the talents in the Philippines and demonstrate that you don't necessarily need to go abroad to make it happen in your life. And the second is that we only serve Filipino products in this residence.
Yeah, that's great.
With the European touch, with the European techniques, but Filipino products. And so what you say, I can really relate to.
It's so important.
I think it's undervalued. The Filipino cuisine is undervalued. The Filipino products are undervalued. They're amazing products. Alien to me is the celebrity thing. Because you said, I didn't want to become a celebrity, and yet you are a celebrity. Your family is part of the celebrity ecosystem. How do you cope with that?
Well, I think so. I'm obviously one of the reasons I made it to where I am today is eventually, definitely when Anne and I got married.
And Dahlia is the name of your.
Dahlia is my daughter's name. Yeah.
Yeah. How does she react to the fact that both her parents are
So I don't think she
Very well known.
understands it.
No, not yet.
I think she thinks it's normal for everyone to know your name. I think she thinks maybe I'm more popular than my mom, than her mom,
All right.
simply because she sees my food videos.
The James Beard
Oh yeah.
Award. What is it?
It's, well, for people who are in the food world,
Right.
it's a really big deal.
Right.
It's a foundation that I've been like obsessed with for the longest time, and it's funny. It's one of the only foundations in the world where people will proudly say, even though they didn't win, that they were a nominee, because it's really tough to get shortlisted.
Right.
And so when I was going through it, the list on announcement day, I was like super sad. I was like, oh, none of our videos are here. And then I saw my name. I'm like, what? Because I didn't think that they would recognize one, a non-American or non-Filipino American that's not even based in the US. So I was really surprised to get nominated. Yeah, thank you very much. It's awesome. I'm going there June 1st.
All right. Apparently it's super big.
It's huge. James Beard is the only one that recognizes food in all its glory, from journalism, literature, chef, restaurants, media. And it's considered kind of like the Oscars of the food world.
Here you are.
So it's a huge deal, yeah. Hopefully, I don't know, I'd be happy if I win or I don't win, but I'll go and hopefully
You
hopefully
did in
we
a
get
category that was not necessarily on your radar.
Correct,
but
yeah.
Here you are.
But
Excellent.
ultimately, it kind of plays into that goal of Filipino representation, right? And so by being recognized by these platforms, then hopefully we can push our Filipino message forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Erwan,
Thank you very much.
for being with us today. It was a real pleasure.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.